Alright, guys. Twizzler back with another episode of the Too Deep Coverage Pod. Pretty tough game there for Minnesota. Seems like they didn't really have a chance the whole time. Probably one of the best teams in the NFC, and they literally didn't have a chance in this game against the Rams. And the Rams looked like they were struggling most of the year. So, we'll get into what that means for Darnold and stuff here in a second. But, man, that looked tough. Man, that was pretty crazy. I turned on the game, and it's 14-0. I'm thinking, man, what in the world happened? And they just walked down the field on these guys. I mean, plain and simple, it seems like the Vikings had no chance the whole time. They were already up so many points, and then, they get that touchdown, and then I always have this philosophy of, okay, don't go for two unless you're within two scores of going for two. So you can get two touchdowns, go for two twice, and you'll be tied or in the lead after that. Because that's two full possessions, plus you got to make, four successful red zone attempts there. And, they got that touchdown, and I thought, okay, they got enough time to maybe get one more, maybe two more. But to go from basically down the entire world to try and come back from that at halftime, 24-3, I think Sam Darnold showed all the cracks that were forming over the season. I mean, that was really tough. That was a big game for Sam Darnold personally. I think he needed to do good. He was just throwing pick after incomplete, after over people's heads, after, throwing it in front of the guy on a little hitch routes and, little screen passes. He's throwing it ahead to guys and behind guys. And, the one touchdown pass that Hawkinson made, he still even had to, make an athletic catch behind his body while he's running. And it kind of just worked in the fact that he kind of did a spin, because I don't think the defenders were expecting him to catch it. If you go back and watch that play, literally the defenders kind of just, give up pretty quick. So, I thought that was pretty crazy. And, to be honest, I think that, the Rams did a lot better than I was expecting on defense. They really did. Picking them off, fumbles. I mean, they made Sam Darnold basically useless. The Rams have a lot of promise, but I think going into Philly is going to be tough. I think their defense is very good, but Philly with the number one defense this year, and their offense it's going just fine. 22 points with one target to A.J. Brown. I think they're doing fine. It's going to be tough for the Rams. And then we have the Commanders going over to Detroit. It'll probably be a 1-2 matchup. If the Rams make it past the Eagles, I'm going to be upset personally, but I think it'll be great for football. It'll be great to football to see who gets past. But, I think Matt Stafford again showed tonight that he's a good quarterback. And, I mean, you want to say great, but he's pretty limited in his age and his mobility and stuff. It's not like he's going to be Tom Brady playing till he's 45 kind of thing. I just don't see that happening. But he's great. He's great. He's a Hall of Famer, especially going and winning a Super Bowl. If he performs well in one of these next 2 or 3 playoffs, like I was saying in today's podcast earlier, he has a real chance to go down to be one of the best quarterbacks there's been. So I think especially after leaving Detroit, coming to a new team and revitalizing it. Even though they were at the top, he basically rewrote the whole story. And I think that was crazy. Puka Nacua is making a ton of plays, whether he gets hurt or not. He was limping around a little bit, kind of got injured. And I saw him, literally the next play. He was driving backwards with his legs, trying to get a first down, doing front flips over guys while they're tackling him, doing front flips over guys to try and get the first down. I mean, he just has, unrivaled effort. I think a lot of these young rookies have a lot of effort. I think a lot of some of these older guys are pros. They're conditioned to the song and dance. Okay, just kind of have things be the way they are. Run out the clock until, the quarter ends and just get up and walk away. Where a lot of these guys, they're pushing. And I think tonight we saw some of that push from Puka. I mean, he just kind of was going crazy. These young guys are crazy. Cooper Kupp with a huge catch down to get him some more points towards the end of the game. I mean, basically, by the time the fourth quarter came, it was over. And it was hard to watch, even at the end of the game. The Vikings had a good season. I think Sam Darnold proved that he's a great regular season quarterback. I think when there's not a lot of pressure on the line and he can just go out and throw the ball, I think there's a lot going for him. But I think that once you get into that pressure realm of like, okay, you got to make something happen for us. You got to make a play. You got to do this. You got to do that. You notice like he couldn't even throw the ball accurately tonight. He couldn't throw it. He couldn't throw it at the guys, 10 yards across from him. Perfect straight pass. No defenders. Just throw it at the guy while he's running, and he's throwing it ahead of him. And I was texting one of my buddies, one of my coworkers, and I'm like, what's going on with the Vikings? Like they were looking so good. Like, they're just going down so fast. And he texted back almost immediately. He said, outcoached. And I think, Kevin O'Connell coming from a Sean McVey system, I think Sean McVey kind of has an idea of what to do to stop his own offense. So I think that's a lot of what Kevin O'Connell runs, right? And I think the Brian Flores defense that was so praised throughout the year up until about week 15, was nowhere to be found these last few games. I mean, they were struggling hard to beat teams. They lost to Detroit pretty handedly. They had no answer for that offense. And then they come in here tonight and they just get completely blown out. I mean, blown out. I think, like going back to what I was saying at the beginning, that 2-point conversion, I think that's important because if you miss that 2-point conversion, a lot of that steam and that chutzpah, that let's go get after it, that motivation you just gained from getting in that touchdown, from clearing that out, I think when you miss that 2-point conversion, it takes a lot of that back away. You say, okay, now we're one step back instead of being one step ahead. I just think that if you hit that 2-point conversion, you're feeling good, you go down, you maybe get one more score. If you miss it, the game ends basically, and that's kind of what happened. I think you kick that extra point, you go for one more touchdown. If you make it then, maybe go for the 2-point if you make another touchdown. But if you don't even get to that point, going for that 2-pointer kind of just shows like you're desperate. It doesn't show like you don't need it when you're down that much. Just get to 10 points. Okay, we're down 17. 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Okay, let's get another field goal. Okay, so now we're down 2 touchdowns. Let's go for a touchdown and let's go for this extra point. All right, let's go for this 2-point. If we don't get it, we have another try to be tied up. If we get it, we can go up by 1 with another touchdown. There's a chance for us to come back and win this game. I just don't think you need to go for the 2-point that early. I think if you're genuinely trying to make a comeback in the NFL, you need to keep it the scoring traditional. You don't want to have weird scores where, okay, we need 19 points. Okay, how are we going to get that? Well, we need 2 touchdowns and a field goal, and 2 field goals because I don't think we'll get a safety, and we can get 3 touchdowns, and that's 21, and we're winning, and then, that's 5 possessions because the Vikings can't do a thing tonight. I think going down by 18 is so weird because now you can't even use 2 points to come back into the game. And even if you do get 2 2-point conversions on your next 2 scores, you still have to go down and get a field goal. So it's just really weird. A coaching mismatch tonight. Kevin O'Connell going against basically his mentor, the person he learned from. He came from the Rams and Sean McVey. So I think it was kind of destined. Even though I picked the Vikings to win, I think that was kind of biased, I suppose, based off of their stats from the regular season, how good Sam Darnold played. But I think that the fact that McVey kind of had something to play for as well, I think that his reputation might start to be questioned, especially since he already won a Super Bowl, and they haven't really been close since. They've lost in the second round twice, I think, if not just the one time last year. So I think he and Stafford definitely want to work together to get back to the Super Bowl, and I think this is a hard way to do it, ending up being the 4 seed. Having to go against the 2 seed of the Eagles, which are just insane. But, talking about the Rams, I think that they have a good matchup next week. It'll just be tough. I think it'll just be tough. It'll be a tough game to call, especially since I got 3 out of the 6 wildcard games wrong. I really thought that Minnesota would come in and have a pretty good shot. And I also thought Tampa Bay would have a really good shot. I think it would be... I thought the Chargers were going to win. I thought things were definitely going to be a little different than they are. But I guess that's why when you get to the playoffs, coaching matters maybe 5-fold. But I think playmaking ability also matters 5-fold or more. So I think, Jane Daniels making those plays at the end of the game elevated his team, even if they didn't have as good a coaching as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that the coaching tonight kind of just elevated the Rams to just kind of walk all over the Vikings. But anyway, guys, I mean, Sam Darnold has a lot of question marks. Because Sam Darnold really had a chance to show, like, hey, I'm not the same guy that was drafted number 3 on the Jets. And I'm not the Carolina guy that they didn't want. And I'm not the same Sam Darnold that they chose Brock Purdy over in San Francisco last year. I'm not that guy. I'm better than him. I'm different now. And that was true. That was true up until 2 weeks ago when he played the Lions. And I think literally, it really hurts to say, but like the last 2 games really diminished the 17 games before, where he did so good, was just on an unbelievable pace, just compared to any quarterback, even, especially compared to himself. I think that Sam's going to have a really hard time getting a contract. I think if J.J. McCarthy comes back, it'll be tough. He's had 2 surgeries on the knee. I think he'll be slower for sure. He was already a project before, but if they have a full offseason to work with him, not just from draft time, but, like the second he's healthy until the second the season starts, I think that they have a better chance of kind of like sorting out how they want to play it. They have Daniel Jones on the very back burner. I don't know really why, other than like pure emergency. Maybe just because they want to have a good guy on their team. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does for himself. Is he going to go to a different team? Because I think the Vikings tonight are probably going to be pretty upset that, he took him there the whole season, and then when they got there, he left. He got off the train. He said, okay, well, guys, I'm done. I put in the work needed, and now I'm done. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty tough to see what Sam Darnold does and the Vikings do with him. I'm pretty interested to see what happens, though. Should they franchise him and just see if he can help JJ get healthy? But then you waste 2 years of your rookie contract with JJ. But we'll see how it goes. Today I was driving in the car and I was thinking, man, I kind of just think about teams a little too offensively. I don't really think about teams too defensively, and the players they have and what they can do, what their rankings are for the year. And I think the Rams tonight showed that, like, all right, our defense may not like pop on paper, or maybe we just barely won the division. We just have 10 wins, but I think that if they were completely healthy all year, I think that you could almost flip their records and it would make a lot more sense. Like the Vikings probably are more of a 10-win team, and the Rams are more of a 14-win team if they have Kupp and Nakua and like 2 offensive linemen for the first 4 weeks of the season. There's literally 4 games right there for you. Guys, I really don't have much to say. It was kind of a disappointing weekend of wild card football. My wife asked me, why do they call it wild card? And I didn't really want to talk about it for like 15 or 20 minutes, because back in the day, there used to be a reason for it to be wild card. You used to actually have to play into the final spot, and then you'd get into the playoffs, and then you'd play. But now it's like, okay, we already know who's who. The 1 seed gets a bye. I'd rather just have it be like a one, like first round and then divisional round or whatever, because wild card doesn't really mean anything, because all these teams are so good. Especially when you get 4 spots of division winners and then 3 are off of record. There's not really many wild cards there. I think wild card is like if you have 7 teams in and then you have 8 and 9 go at it. That's a wild card. That's a wild card. There's not really much of that anymore. I think this wild card weekend's probably going to end. They might not give a bye to the 1 seed anymore, but they got to find a way to break it down to 4 teams somehow. So that's just the best way I see fit. And I don't think that the 1 seed should have to play a game against the 8th seed just to make it an even bracket and have their guys get injured and stuff. Or reward a team that's the 8th seed by playing a 1 seed with, not as good of players. I think having a bye in the playoffs is important, but I think that this wild card weekend, kind of like the first couple of rounds of the college football playoff, just kind of showed like, okay, a lot of these teams shouldn't be here. Like, both Houston and the Chargers, only one of those teams only won because they played each other. I think if they played each other, like against different teams, both of those teams lose. I think that Houston will get knocked out next week real quick. It'll be pretty apparent that they're not a very top tier team. I think Washington very quickly will show that they're not a top tier team, and I think that the Rams will show their age. Because as young as they are, they're also old. They don't have like a good average age on the Rams. Like they're a very like high and low end team. So like a lot of the core is really old, and a lot of the new players are so young that they're not really like grizzled yet. So I don't know if they'll have like that good mix of like youth and experience to come into this playoffs. I think that's why they did so well, even having to go on the road, even though everything was like LA Rams. The whole stadium was LA Rams. I couldn't believe it. 60,000 gallons of blue paint. 60,000 gallons of blue paint. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to be it for me today. I don't really have much else to say. It was pretty slow. I think we'll be back probably earlier before next week. If there's any coaching changes or anything like that, we'll get into Vrabel and everything like that. But I think that's been beaten to a dead horse. I don't think anybody else was expecting to get that New England job. I think everybody was expecting that. So we'll see what the next coaching has. Mike McCarthy just got fired or let go of the Cowboys, so that'll be an interesting development. I just don't want to go over anything too soon because there's a lot that could happen. I think that he's way too good of a coach to just kind of speculate on him. Just speculate. So we'll end that there, and I'll see you guys later.